awesome poster. Awesome poster. It's just, I couldn't get it to zoom in. I couldn't get it to zoom in, guys. What is going on, Rolling Empire? I just want to give you guys another review video, just this time to talk about Hulu's Palm Springs. Yes, Hulu has a new film, original apparently, called Palm Springs. Has the stars of, like, the chick that was in How I Met Your Mother, and then actors like Andy Samberg and J.K. Simmons. Is a time loop. It's a time loop kind of premise that with involving a marriage that takes place in some vacational home, like a vacation home near or at Palm Springs kind of thing. And yeah, it's like, it's, if you understand what the premise is and like goes on in this premise, you might think, okay, I've seen this 1,000 times, or is this going to be fairly new? And then yeah, it's just, it centers on particularly the How I Met Your Mother and Andy Samberg, where they somehow, their stories intertwine. They have one night of just having a good time, just hanging out, and then you start realizing more what the plot goes on, and just that's kind of like her story. And then it's about these two kind of coping, realizing, well, how do they get out of the situation? Or should they just embrace and just live this type of situation for whatever, as long as it goes, and kind of thing. And yeah, it's funny. It's like, you're like, wow, they're making a movie about this, and there's just the whole like premise of like where they want to shoot it, and what the story is. And it's kind of like, well, it's not something fairly new, so what are you going to bring to the table? And seeing how, just how cinema is, obviously how cinema's been treated, this year. You're like, well, we take what we can get. I'm just like, can we get just good movies? Can we get freshly good movies? And yeah, like, does this fall in that category? I kind of want to say so. Like, I did, like, liked it more than what I thought I was gonna get. I don't know if I could be like, this is the best movie, this is one of the better movies of the year. But man, just, it's like, it's an interesting film, and you realizing, wow, like, what really the metaphorical layer aspects of it, and like realizing how people can relate to it. It's like, it's just, and the themes and just the nuances, the layers that go on. It's interesting, and like fired by these two actors, like showing how, you know, it's like, it could have fall as like your basic kind of rom com kind of thing, like had the rom com and all that into it, but they still gave it some new, like, perspectives, some new themes, kind of like, at least, like, I like the acting. It felt believable. The acting really felt like these two were they weren't forced. They came together. They hanged out, so how do you say, like normal. It was casual. It made sense. It was normally well put. It wasn't like fell forced, and like, I like the atmosphere. The atmosphere to this whole movie was really good. Whether how the energy it was, or how the style was, I did like appreciate the whole look, and it was really good. And then just seeing the story, seeing how it's really character driven. It's character driven, like the decisions they make, and then realizing how, like, there's still, as the movie goes on, a lot that you're gonna discover. You're like, oh, okay, like, things that were like, they're subtle, they're not grand, but you're like, okay, it makes the film, it's hooking you, and then, like, where you're like, you're kept invested, you're interested, and then you realize, oh, these turns, or there's these kind of like decisions, or these twists, anything that just kind of makes the movie even more, like, just more enjoyable. It really was a nice chemistry, though. The chemistry really was a nice kind of way to just realize, well, yeah, like, it was believable. It was grounded. It made sense. It was something that felt realistic, and it's still like, it's an interesting premise. I like these kinds of stories, like, where it's like, it has a quirky kind of genre, but still, like, the roots of like what the storytelling is felt very grounded. I like that kind of blend, and not all the time it works, but it worked for this one for me. I, it was fun when it had to be, and it was emotional. It was serious when it had to be. A bit of it was like some a bit of the conflict, like the conflict of like how, you know, how tonal a bit it might go, and just how certain like switches could be a bit jarring for me. But a lot of it really was paid off. I did have just a good time. It did feel very vacational. It was very like vacational. It was very relaxing kind of vibe, like I said. And yeah, it's just you cared enough to see all these characters be like, well, what's gonna happen? Like, what's gonna happen with their situation? Even JK, man, JK was a nice little surprise, but particularly it's these two with, Andy Samberg getting it like enough of this like where like she is the one where she teaches a lot of new things, and he's the one that's like he's been through this, so it's a nice kind of way, like it's a nice kind of way to look at it where it's like you know that these two help each other. There's a purpose. They help each other. There's a purpose of what, like what, how are they gonna get through this? What's the situation? How's the time gonna go? Like, how's the time gonna go? And you're gonna be like, okay, like these two really just help each other, and it's a nice way. And Andy Samberg, good job. Like, Andy Samberg gives a really good like performance, like very emotional, very resonating, very, you know, very good performance. It's just something that he usually doesn't do, and it's nice to see him do something like this. And yeah, guys, overall, just the chemistry with these two, just the the teamwork that they had to do, just the main two actors is really what really drives this movie. And I had a good time with this movie. I'm gonna have to give Palm Springs a B plus. Let me know, guys, what you thought of this movie. Did you hate it? Did you love it? All this in the comments below. And as always, roll on Empire, laugh, smile, repeat.